Yeah, so if you just entered, we'll start in a bit, maybe 1 or 2 minutes, because I'd like to give everyone a few minutes to enter. And also, you can look at the screen and you'll see a few things there, a few pieces of advice that you hear all the time. And can you check if that's good or bad advice according to you? Hey, Alan, Professor Alan in the house.
Get a Duolingo streak. Yay.
Goedenavond and good evening.
Goedenavond, welcome. Yes, and you can respond or say anything you want in the chat. And later also maybe with the microphone, but for now, please turn the microphone off and the camera on. And please think about the pieces of advice that are on the screen. Do you think it's good or bad advice? And then we'll start in what, 2 minutes maybe, Jelle, so everyone can enter?
Everybody got a notification, so I think everybody's been spammed with emails now that we've started. So less people will join, but we can start in, let's wait another minute, and otherwise people will see it on the screen also, so they can jump in later.
Of course, yeah. And I will introduce myself in a bit as well, if you have no idea who I am. Sorry about that. I'm doing my best to become famous.
They know you're a teacher. It says it after your name, so.
Right. And if you don't know who Jelle is the man of the Going Dutch community.
We're gonna MC each other, introduce each other.
Ladies and gentlemen, shout out to Jelle Boers.
Yeah, so I think there's some people here from your mailing list or students of yours, also Max. Well, the same goes for Going Dutch, of course. And then there's also people here who are not students but have joined now on this platform for the first time. So welcome. And of course, we hope you enjoy the masterclass given by Max. I think we can start, Max. If people join in later, they'll catch on. So.
Yeah. Okay. So for everyone, before I introduce myself and I ask you some questions, first let's dive into the theory immediately, right? Because that's what it's all about. So no blah blah chitter chatter. So the self-study advice that's on the screen, you'll see that's from random people and teachers, things that you hear all the time. Do you think that's good or bad? And just some general ideas, could you write in the chat? Good, bad, some good, some bad. What do you think? Please let me know. In the chat, your first thoughts, please. Good, bad. Not everything works for everyone, right? A mix. Okay, nice. So, being fully honest, this is what I would say. It's all bad. Which is maybe not completely true, but let me explain before I introduce myself. So first one, you learn Dutch by speaking, so go practice. So the reason I think that's bad advice is because it's not true. You cannot learn anything by speaking because a word or a sentence structure or something like that needs to come in through your eyes or through your ears, right? Because otherwise, how can you say something you've never seen or heard before, right? So you learn by something that comes into your eyes and ears, by input, in other words, and then you practice when you speak. So technically, you're not learning anything when you speak, but you're practicing what you've learned before, right? So that's why I think the advice is bad, because when you put an A0 person with zero knowledge, boom, in a Dutch situation, and then tell them go speak, it's not only wrong factually, but it's also super frustrating. You've all been there, you try to speak, but you can't and all that. also what follows from this advice usually is like, go to Holland, when you want to learn Dutch, just go to Holland and you'll learn by speaking. And then you're living 3 years in Holland, 4 years in Holland, and you're still not speaking Dutch. Is it then your own fault? That's what follows from this advice, right? Well, it's not. You just didn't have the right approach. So don't worry, it's not your fault. You can learn Dutch, but not by speaking, but by listening and reading, and then practice it by speaking. So that's number one. Then number two, learn 10 words per day and you'll get there. Again, I think it's theoretically wrong because you cannot learn a word and then have that word and then go on with your life and use it and never forget it. It just doesn't work like that, okay? So that's why I made this slide. No, it doesn't work like that, okay? You cannot learn a word and then put it in your mind or your vocabulary, wherever that might be, and then have it for the rest of your life. No, it doesn't work like that. You hear a word, you'll vaguely understand what it means, then you hear it again, then you get it a bit more, then you'll forget it, then you'll read it, then you use it for the first time, and like, oh, that makes sense. Then you use it in a wrong context. Then you again learn something about the word. And slowly, the word becomes a part of your vocabulary, right? So learning 10 words per day, it just doesn't work like that. And also there's about 60,000 words in Dutch. So it will, in that velocity, in that speed, it will take you more than 12 years to learn Dutch. It doesn't make sense. The third one, don't translate, is more difficult. I think it's good when you speak Dutch to not translate in your mind the whole time, but you can also use translation as a tool to learn faster. And we'll see that technique later on. So don't translate. In general, it's not true. In the end, when you're reading a book, right, you should try and stop translating all the time because otherwise you'll stick to English and that's not good. So that one's a bit iffy. Fourth one, find your learning style first, then use that. The idea of learning styles is old-fashioned, and basically language is an exception to the rule when there's learning. So when there's learning styles, most people think they're not, but if they are there, they are not here in terms of language learning, because language is a very special thing and people learn it everywhere in the world the same way, and that is by reading and listening and imitating each other, just like babies. And babies do that everywhere the same. They just listen and they start gaggling and go gaga, and then they start slowly tuning their voice and they start speaking the language, right? And they do that everywhere. They don't learn, some of them by watching videos, some of them don't imitate. No, they all imitate, they all listen. So there's no learning styles in language learning. There are preferences. Some of you like watching videos. Some of you like learning books, like reading books. That's fine. That's not a style. That's just something you like, and that's completely different. The next one, change your phone to Dutch. You'll maybe learn 5 words. So, I mean, why not? But it's not a good way to immerse yourself in the Dutch language. More than that, it's very annoying, and you'll get super frustrated. So if you want to learn a couple of words, yeah, go ahead, but it's not good advice to learn Dutch. And next one, memorize irregular verbs. Please don't memorize anything. It doesn't work that way again, especially not if you're trying to memorize 1 verb per day, because then you get in the same situation as learn the 10 words per day, right? It just doesn't work like that. You can make lists and practice, that's okay. You can repeat for yourself the conjugations of irregular verbs, that helps. But really memorizing, if you manage to do it, that's fine. But then you could have spent that time doing other things and learned, you could have learned much more. Like you could have spent that time by reading or listening or having conversations. So please do that, not memorizing conjugations. And we'll see a little bit more why later. Then the last one, get a 1,000-day Duolingo streak. This one also, I think it's not very bad advice. You can learn a lot of words from Duolingo, but if you want to boost your Dutch at home effectively, then it's better to do other things than Duolingo as soon as possible. So use it a couple of weeks, and then move on to more complex resources, to higher level books and apps, and I'll give them to you later on. So it's not very effective, but it's not super bad. If you love it, then go ahead. Okay. Welcome everyone. I hope that helped in the first 11 minutes. And today I'd like to give a masterclass about boosting your Dutch at home with these 3 things, with principles, so general guidelines you can follow, strategies and tactics, the Going Dutch community, and these 2 books can help you do that, of course. Why? Well, it's so easy to get lost. There's so many things you can do, so many resources. So after this masterclass, you know what to do and exactly how and when to do it and for how long. But that looks very chaotic, that slide, and very long. So boost your Dutch at home. After this masterclass, you'll know how. Sounds better, right? This is who I am. Oh, by the way, I see a question from someone. Is that a question from
No,
Chris?
someone raised his hands, but I think.
Yeah, if there's a question, ask it in the chat, and then also Jelle can answer, or other people can answer as well. Or save it for later, and then we'll answer it as well. For now, this is me. I'm a Dutch teacher. I'm an English teacher as well. I'm a philosopher because I studied philosophy. And I'm a language learner. I like learning languages. And I'm a writer of these 2 books that are novels for beginners that I'll sometimes use as an example. I learned, and I'm still learning these languages, especially focusing on Persian these days, and slowly getting better, I hope. So let's go. Boost your Dutch at home with principles, strategies, and tactics. And before we dive deeper, first a question to you guys. Who is here from the Going Dutch community? Could you respond, raise your hand, or write something in the chat? Or 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, many. Nice. Okay, and who is here from my email list? So we got some advice from me and decided to come to the masterclass. Nice. Also some people. So cool. Thank you for coming. I hope it helps. And then who's here from, because they saw a post on Instagram from Hart voor Nederlands, from Saar? I think no one, right? Oh, yes, 1, 2. Okay, also welcome. Thank you for coming. I hope it's useful. Last question about you. Who has here an A level? So A0, A1, A2? Many beginners. Nice. Okay, for you it's very nice because you can, from the A level onward, already starting to study with the good techniques. Who is here has a B level? Only a few. 10, 12. Okay, and someone with a C level around here, C1, C2. 1, 2. Ellen, you're getting there, right? Nice. Okay, welcome everyone. So principles and strategies, just a quick theoretical question. Who knows tactics and strategy when it comes, for example, to chess? It's important to know. Okay, so in chess, for example, strategy is about the whole game, right? So you're like an aggressive player or defensive player, that's your strategy, right, throughout the game. And tactics are in the moment. So there are sometimes you can pin a bishop, right, or you can attack the queen, you can trap the knight, whatever. Those are called tactics. Same for money. Tactics are like selling your book during a masterclass, right? That's a tactic. But a strategy, for example, is a 10-year plan of how you plan to improve your stock market, well, your stocks or whatever, right? So in language learning, principles are the guidelines you follow, right? And then So the concepts, the ideas and guidelines. The strategies are the way you plan your study sessions, changes that you make in your life to fit your Dutch learning, investments you do long term, right? Those are strategies. And then the last one are tactics. Those are, for example, study techniques and resources you use. And I'd like to go from the principles to the strategies to the tactics. And please already note that most of you probably are focused on tactics. So on what to do in the moment, right? You're probably focusing on how many exercises to do, right? To write down a sentence or not, which class to follow, right? And those are all tactics. So you can gain a lot of things. You can gain a lot of words, and you can gain a lot of time probably by looking at the first two things. So let's look at these 4 principles. Number 1, time. 2, compelling and comprehensible input. Then 3, the 80-20 rule, and muscle memory, lastly. So first one is time. And also the first thing I said last masterclass, if there's only one thing you take from today, then please take that the amount of time you put in learning Dutch is the most important thing, right? It's super logical, but we all tend to forget this. That is, the more time you spend doing Dutch, you'll get better, right? Even if you use the wrong techniques, you'll still learn something, right? So if you do it enough, you'll get there. Never forget. The most important indicator of your Dutch level is how much time you have spent with the language. So this principle, it's important to actually start using it by tracking your time. And I'll help you doing that later. So don't study randomly, but keep some tracking, use some kind of tracking system to keep track for how much time you spent. And then you'll see where you are. And to see where you are, you need to know how much time it actually takes to learn Dutch. Here you have a little visual representation. The A levels takes about, 50 to 150, right? Then the B levels, 300 to about 900 hours. C levels, you're already 1800 to 3600 hours. And most of you are trying to get here. So after about 600 hours, you're in the middle of the B levels, more or less, right? If you speak English, and you guys do, of course. So this is where you're aiming for. So when you have the tracking system later on, you're trying to get here to 600, and that's the point where you can start just watching movies and speak to everyone, and you'll get better from there. But getting to this level is the annoying part, and that's where you are. That's why it's good that you are here, because that's also the part where you need most of these techniques, right? When you already have a B level, like some of you, you can also just live in Dutch, right? Like read, watch films, speak, work in Dutch, and you'll also get better. But using the techniques that you'll see today will definitely make that process even faster. So number 1, shortly summarize, the amount of hours is your language level. That's why I propose for all of you a 100-hour challenge. If you want to, Jelle. You can do it as well for Spanish or something. So get an Excel sheet or print out some paper and write 100 hours on there. And every time you do Dutch for 1 hour, you write it in there, or you tick the box of hour number 1, number 2, number 3, and make a note or something sometimes, right? Whenever you feel like it. And then later, after the 100 hours, you can read back. You can reread what you've written, and you'll see that you get so much better in 100 hours. Because 100 of the 600 of total hours you need to get to the B level that's a lot, right? So come back to it later. I'm also going to announce it on my YouTube channel. But this is my advice. Do a 100-hour challenge from now until summer, for example. Right? So before September, that you complete 100 hours. And we can do what Jelle says. Yeah, create a challenge in the community. share your experience. That's great. Yeah. So that's about number one, right? Even if you take only this from the challenge, forget all the techniques, forget everything, start doing Dutch hour by hour, and you'll also get better. Yeah. Principle number 2, compelling and comprehensible input. Also from the last masterclass, but now I'll go a little bit faster. The input hypothesis makes a difference between learning and acquiring. The first thing is what we all usually do in high school, right? We conscious, intentional, and explicitly learn grammar, words, things like that. We do a lot of effort. We learn the language in a formal way, focusing on structures, like grammar structures on form. Reading intensively, so meaning that we analyze the text that we have, and we analyze the sound. This should be intensive listening. We analyze the audio that we have, and we do that all in a traditional classroom, right? Well, this man, Stephen Krashen, I won't talk long about him today because today is more practical, but he says this is okay, but what's better and where most of your time should be spent is on acquiring the language. And that is subconscious, incidental, and implicit. And you don't learn with a lot of effort, but you learn effortlessly and informal with a focus on meaning. So that means, for example, you read a book for fun, right? Instead of analyzing the book, you just read it. You try to follow the story, not to understand all the words. And that is called extensive reading and extensive listening. And some teaching methods that are based on this distinction is, for example, TPRS, so teaching physical response systems. And also I teach using acquiring a lot more than learning. So what does this mean practically? It means that doing this, making lists of words, is bad because it takes a lot of time. You're putting in a lot of effort, and you're not using any input, right? You're actually using a lot of English. So it's very tiring. And if you want to do that for the whole language, right? Making word lists and then memorizing them for the whole language. Well, according to the Dikke van Dale, so the dictionary in Dutch, there's about 60,000 words in Dutch. So try doing that for 60,000 words, right? Memorizing them, putting your hand on one side, see if you remember and all that. A normal person, depending on how you count, knows about 8,000 words, and a Dutch 6-year-old 1,500. So that's like already this stack of paper, right? So that's not good. What should you do? Practical conclusions from the input hypothesis is that grammar is good but overrated, that you shouldn't memorize words, that you shouldn't worry about speaking because that's not where you learn Dutch anyway. What should you do? You should read and listen to compelling and comprehensible input. So you should find interesting stuff in Dutch at your level. And then if you consume that, speaking will come. From the comprehension, the production will follow, right? So that's the input hypothesis. And this is the principle. This principle shows you that you should focus on getting input. Like somebody wrote already, listening to podcasts, for example, watching videos, reading books. And in a bit, I'll tell you how and what to listen to and to read, right? But wait, also output is important, okay? You cannot only read books and then expect to speak Dutch fluently. Some people do that, by the way, so it is definitely possible, but not everyone learns perfect Dutch from only reading. So it's better to also do some kind of output, which is what this woman, Swain, this linguist, showed. And that's why we need principle number 3, the 80-20 rule. And this principle we need because output is important and input is important. So then there's big discussions on how much you should do reading and listening and how much you should do exercises, write and speak. And more or less everyone agrees that this should be more or less, okay, the divide of the two. 80% input, 20% output. So the 80-20 rule tells you that if you have 10 hours of studying Dutch, please do 80% of that time things that you consume in Dutch. So watching videos, reading books, listening to podcasts, even making flashcards is also fine as long as you don't use any translations. Doing stuff that comes in through your eyes and through your ears, because that's how you learn. And then if you want that to stick around and if you want to use the language, well, then you need the output. And that's where pretty much all the techniques that we'll look at later come in, because that's the flashcards that you actually use to translate. That's where things like speaking and classes and grammar exercises and shadowing and all that comes in. Some more examples: 80% input, 20% output. Also, please do 80% of extensive studying, meaning long texts, long audios, big podcasts, and 20% of intensive things. So, for example, translating a text, that's intensive. Or doing a grammar exercise, that's intensive. That definitely helps, but do it only 20% of the time. Most of my students are focusing way too much on intensive tasks. So then they're spending 2 hours a week, speaking and doing grammar exercises and nothing else. So you're doing 80%. You're not doing the most important percentage, right? That was bad English, but you got me, I think. So then also 80% is strategy, right? Long-term sacrifices, life changes, things you can do in your environment. Those are 80% of the time the most important thing. And then tactics are only 20%. So if you might make the right strategical decisions, looking at the advice from today, you'll do 80% correct. And then if you're using the wrong study techniques when you actually sit down and study, then you're doing only 20% wrong. So you'll be okay. Some examples: 80% reading books, listening to podcasts, watching series, making sacrifices. For example, don't go to the party, but stay home and watch Netflix in Dutch. That's a sacrifice. And putting in more time. Then 20% are things like classes, grammar exercises, writing a text, doing some Duolingo, practicing in the supermarket, doing a lot of blah blah with friends, right? And all the techniques that we'll look at today. So the third thing, the techniques, they're all 20%. So right, like Jelle is saying in the chat, it will be difficult to reach 100 study hours before June if you only study intensively. Yeah. So if you look at studying Dutch as a thing that you have to do sitting down and, analyzing stuff, then you'll be so slow in the long term, because who does have like a couple of hours? Who has a couple of hours a week to do that, right? Almost no one. So my advice for now is introverts, just don't practice for now. Stay in your house, watch videos, read books, listen to podcasts. Don't listen to people who tell you to go out and speak right away. You really don't have to. 80% of learning Dutch, it can be done at home. And then the second thing is boost your Dutch at home, right? Also for the extroverts. Last principle is muscle memory. And this is only about speaking, or only about pronunciation, actually. And I'd like you to think about it in this way, that you should train your tongue like you train your biceps. What do you do for your biceps? Reps and sets, right? In the gym, you go 2-3 times per week to the gym. I mean, not you, but as an example. And do the bicep exercises. And then your bicep will get bigger. You'll get better in the exercises, right? Well, the same goes for pronunciation, okay? There's no reason to think about the pronunciation. It's not going to help. You can feel, and think about where your tongue is. If you pronounce a word, that helps. So you can feel, but it's something you have to do, okay? So you have to train your tongue. And also that's why I'll have some techniques that actually help you train your tongue. And then training your tongue will bring the Dutch words into your muscle memory, and it will be a lot easier to recall words and to speak better. This is my advice coming from the principal. First, train your tongue from the beginning. So also in your house at home, repeat words out loud. So don't read out loud. That's not as good. I mean, repeat out loud. So if you're listening, repeat the words out loud, and then you'll train your tongue. Also, please note that connection between comprehension and pronunciation is very strong. So if you pronounce words better, you'll also hear them and understand them better. So I noticed that, for example, Spanish speakers have a hard time hearing the difference between man and man. Man and moon in English, man and man. So if you don't hear a difference in the two words I've said, maybe you're a Spanish speaker, because in Spanish there's only one A, right? So because Spanish people only know how to pronounce one A, they can also hear only one A. So that means to understand the difference between man and man, they need to be able to pronounce the difference as well. And that's why it's so important to start speaking from the beginning, not with people, but out loud in your room by repeating what you hear, okay? So please do so. And that will help you, lastly, to notice short differences in how you pronounce and how other people pronounce, because you'll hear the difference when you repeat and listen. You'll hear the difference and you can practice more, right? So far, those were the 4 principles. What do you think, guys? Are you still here? I see some people. Nice. Okay. Nice. I'll take 1 sip.
Very interesting what you said about the time you spend on your level, because I have a hard time understanding my level. Some days it feels A1, some days A2 plus, I don't know.
Yeah. So we're going to say a little bit more about that later. I actually didn't include it in the presentation, but the reason that you vary, right? That your language levels vary depends on so many factors. But one of them that people tend to forget is tiredness, right? When you're more tired, you speak worse. When you have energy, you speak better. I have the same. I like to compare it always with doing the handstand. Okay. I practiced the handstand already for many years, but some days, sometimes I cannot stabilize, and I have no idea why. And it's just because if I ate different, I was more tired, whatever, right? So that your level goes up and down while speaking. That's why it's a very bad way to measure it by speaking. So don't measure your level by how well you speak, because it will change depending on the day, the topic, the person you're speaking with. That's why it's so important to track your time, because then you know where you are, and then you can just use this image to see if it makes sense. If you spent 2,000 hours and you're still in the A1 level, then you're doing something wrong, right? Okay, let's go to the next point. 5 strategies, so long-term changes you can make. First one is a time tracking system. So you know where you are, you know where you're going. 2 is sacrifices, a good plan, and using your dead time. 3 is optional, because it's kind of hard to do, but it's a vocabulary tracking system. And number 1 is not optional, okay? I'm going to text each and every one of you tomorrow and ask if you already have a time tracking system. And then number 4 is a progressive good resource building. So choosing resources that get more difficult, so you know that when you consume them, you'll learn more words. And 5, because of the principle number 4, the muscle memory, you need tongue training. Let's look at them one by one. First, time tracking system. Short question, who knows? Who knows how many hours they've spent, more or less? Could you write it in the chat? Anybody has any idea?
Also,
Guessing.
sorry, if you have a specific template for a time tracking system, that's something we can share afterwards as well, of course, in email.
I have one, yeah. $500 plus, 300. Okay, some people have some idea. That's nice. 2 hours per week. Okay. 2 hours per week. So to 600 hours, you need 300 weeks. 6 years. Okay, 1 hour a day. Wow, 1 hour a day is really good. Then you know that you'll get there under 2 years. You'll be already at a very nice intermediate level. 10 hours per week. Whoa. After 60 weeks, so a little bit over a year, you'll be already in the B levels from 0. So that's really good. 1 hour per day. Hey, Bradley. Welcome. 1 hour a day. Yeah, okay. So nice that some of you have some idea. It really helps to keep track. You can do it like this. I did it myself, but there's also templates out there that we'll definitely share. But the general idea is this. You have on the left, you have your date, you have a journal, you have the amount of minutes that you spent. That calculates out the amount of hours in general. And then you have totals, right? Total per year, total per month. That gives you some idea, and it also motivates you. Because sometimes you start, your Dutch is getting worse and worse. And I noticed that my students don't know why. They're like, oh, I'm getting worse. I don't know why. And then the question is, of course, well, did you put in the hours? Maybe not. You went on a holiday, right? But sometimes you have a vague idea that you're doing a lot, but maybe you're not. So for all these reasons, to make it specific, please track your hours. And let's go even further. Also, plan your hours. So how to implement this into your life, use your dead time. I said it in the last masterclass, I'll quickly repeat. If a normal course is sometimes 2 hours for 10 weeks, so 20 hours, right? Imagine you're using your dead time. So 4 mornings, you are in the tram or train or car, whatever, for 30 minutes. So if you're using 4 mornings per week and you're listening to something in Dutch, which is what you should do 80% of the time anyway, that's also 2 hours. So you're every 10 weeks, you're doing a course, right? So that's how you plan your time forward. And then you know in 2 years you want to be B2. You know, you can calculate per week what you need to do and then plan that in your calendar, right? And most of us don't have a lot of time to actually sit down. So that's why we need these moments that we are waiting, that we're in the car, that you're waiting for the tram, whatever. Making it practical. I put here a little plate with a fork and a knife because you are what you eat, right? The same goes for Dutch. You are what you eat. If you consume a lot of Dutch, you'll start to become Dutch, right? Eat enough cheese and you'll become cheese. You'll become a cheese head. So 1, schedule your active sessions, okay, in your agenda. 2, schedule, for example, 2 moments that you have anyway that you're now going to use to learn Dutch, for example, in the public transport. And 3, choose 1 sacrifice. So please, let's do it immediately, okay? Why not? It's a practical session. Could you open your Google Agenda or take your paper agenda, whatever. And do what I did here for the Persian immersion, right? Find 2 moments where you have about 30 minutes, okay? A good session is 20, but let's say for today, 30 minutes. Just put it in your calendar and call it Dutch. Just please do it right now. Hey, Sarah, welcome. For you, German, Sarah, you're learning German, right? Put 2 German moments. 9. 2 German moments in your calendar. Maybe Spanish for you, Jelle. Okay, who did it already? Me? Nice. If you really don't want to, I won't get angry. Thank you. Nice. Okay, some people actually did it. Okay, second thing. Now use your dead time. So in your calendar, there's probably nothing when you know you're in the train. So please put there now 2 moments. So for example, a morning is 1 moment, and maybe you have a coffee in the morning when you're not doing anything else, or maybe you're reading the news. Don't read the news. Read some Dutch, right? So you choose a moment you already have, and then change it into a Dutch moment. Please choose 2 moments. For me, I used this Persian in metro, and I like to walk. I did Persian walk. So if you walk your dog, that's an amazing moment. Take your headphones, walk your dog, listening to Dutch. Okay, who already did it? Some people, super nice, thank you. And then lastly, choose one sacrifice. So for 2025, decide one of these things and stick to it the whole year, okay? If you want to, it's gonna work. So watch only Dutch series, watch only YouTube videos, listen only to Dutch podcasts, so no other podcasts. Or if you love watching your content in English, then do something else. Read only Dutch books, text only with Dutch people. Nice, Jelle. So please choose one. And if you've chosen one, can you write the number in the chat, maybe? I see dog walking plans, Dutch texting plans. Nice. Hey, Sarah, I'll just turn off your microphone, okay, Sarah? Sorry. Number 4, number 1. Nice. We are sacrificing here. Super cool. So you can also change and choose your own sacrifices, decide other things, of course, right? But I find it very useful. What I did is Persian walks, Persian public transport moments, and also making a YouTube account, especially for watching Persian. But we'll come to that later. Check, we did this. So we did time tracking system, and 2, we looked at sacrifices, planning, and dead time. So to summarize the planning part, the idea is that you don't wait for doing Dutch until everything else is done, right? Because then it will never happen, right? Every time I do it, I say, okay, first I'll work, then I'll do sports, then when I come home, then I'll do some Persian, right? It never happens, even though I love it. So that's why I really recommend putting it into your agenda like we just did, always, right? So just like work is there, sports is there, the birthday of your partner is there, just put Dutch in there and then stick to it 80% of the time, right? With the 80-20 principle. 20% of the time you don't feel like it, that's fine, but just do it 80% of the time. And using your dead time, everybody has dead time. So let's look for, as a third thing, to the vocabulary tracking system. And it's very hard to track your vocabulary, but there are at least
Yeah, we see the PDF page, the blank page. no no sponsored promotion of Link. This is just a valuable sharing of resources. You okay? Like 15 minutes. I think so, yes. Play it? Can people shadow in the bus also? That they start shadowing other people, or it is what it is. Just go for it. People, if people have to go, then they can see the recording afterwards. But if they want to stick around, then they can. It's it's way past Dutch dinner time already, so it doesn't matter. I think. Don't eat already if you want. It's almost done. I was going to say we will also share a follow up email with. I think people were asking for TV shows, podcasts, all these kind of things, and of course also these reading materials. Um, I I have one here of Max, but yeah, you can. Well, we'll share the links to everything afterwards, so you can find it. Ah, that's the new version. Yeah, I just had one thought also about everything you just talked about. And one quote I heard a while back, which I think is very applicable here, is do the thing you'll actually do. So it's very simple, but it's a very good practice to focus on things that you actually find interesting and you want to understand what it's about and everything to keep going. Um, so yeah, that's also what we try to do, of course, to keep people going, keep people in the train of studying Dutch and practicing. So first of all, thank you so much, Max, for giving another masterclass. I thought it was very very interesting. Of course, Max is also here every week for the Q&A, which is also open. So people that joined here outside of the community can also access the Q&A session. So you can ask all your Dutch grammar questions and whatnot. Um, and yeah, again, for the ones that aren't yet a member, we will send an email afterwards with some explanations and some resources and all that. Um, Perfect. Do you want to go for the questions now already, or yeah, yeah, Yes, I saw a lot of questions coming by. I tried to answer them during the chat, but you can also unmute yourself and just ask a question. Patricia? Um, yeah, marriage first. Yeah, marriage first, Dutch second. Huh? And yeah, when you were asking that earlier, I thought you got to think long term as well with both things. So also with Dutch, so like getting constantly corrected with everything is can be very frustrating, and that's not good for the long term, neither for your marriage nor for your Dutch. So I would find a balance in it for sure. Okay. Just one question about your book also. It's a good question from Vivian. If it makes sense to get the second book or the Antwerpen book if they already have the Rotterdam book. And yeah, can be interesting to learn some Belgian slang also, maybe. Yeah. Yeah, and I see other book recommendations. I think we'll create a nice list for people with some recommendations, and we'll share a follow-up email with that. All right. Anyone? Yeah. Come on. Yeah, or make like a little mental note of specific words that come back sometimes, or that you confuse a lot, especially when you want to talk about deze or die, or because it's not just the article that changes, of course, with Dutch. It's many other things. Well, some other things. So yeah, but instead of like taking you out of the whole reading process, just take a little chick mental note and keep going, because it will come back usually in a text as well. So nice. Um, All right. I think, yeah, if anyone will have a question afterwards, they can always reach out. You can, at the top right, there's a little message button. So you can always send me a message. You can also send Max a message there or an email. And yeah, we'll create a nice list with all the recommendations for you. So you'll have that. And if you have any Dutch questions, you can always ask Max during the Q&A. So. All right. Well, thank you very much, Max. I hope it was, well, for me, it was very useful as well, even though I know Dutch already, but of course, you can apply it to any language. So that's great. And I hope it was useful for everyone. But I think so. So nice. Yeah, we'll be busy planning the next masterclass. Not sure yet when that's going to be, but we'll keep you informed. And don't forget to check out the book and read. It's good for your Dutch and some support for Max, who's doing great work. So and oh yeah, exactly. It's the first time actually I'm quoted on a book, so I feel honored. I feel honored. Not like exactly, yeah. The next one hopefully is Dikke van Dalen. Like maybe we can both get a quote there. Hmm. Yeah. Well, every year they add words, right? On. Oh yeah. Hmm. Ontvlinderen. That's that's very cute. It's also one of my favorite Dutch words, actually, vlinder. Especially a lot of words look a bit like German, except for this one. I think it's considered one of the more ugly words in German, Schmetterling. Nice. All right. Um, fijne avond of fijne dag voor Patricia. En tot de volgende keer. Doei. All right. Zo, ging goed. Zeker. Ja, was heel leuk. Veel mensen hebben eigenlijk de hele masterclass gekeken. Ik zat een beetje bij te houden hoeveel mensen er bleven hangen. Dus dat is mooi. Ja, maar er kwam ook weer wat bij en zo. Maar goed. Ehm, ik heb echt super veel honger, dus ik ga lekker happen. Maar we houden even contact voor de follow-up en zo. Dat laten we dat morgen even opstellen en e-mailen naar iedereen. En ik kan ook nog even op Instagram nog even een story erbij zetten met boeklink en alles. Ehm, dus als je ook nog even een goede foto stuurt van nou, Nieuw in Rotterdam dan zelf, maar misschien nog een foto met Nieuw in Antwerpen ook. Dan promote ik dat. Kan er met jou ook. Dan wat jij wil. Oké, ja, ja. Alright. Ja, jij bedankt. En we houden contact. Yo, thanks. Fijne avond. Doei.